What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Shogi from Shook Earth Media, and today we are looking at Dark Winds. It is a new AMC series, a crime drama period piece set in the 1970s on a Navajo reservation. It is about a string of seemingly unrelated crimes that, of course, as the series goes on, will be revealed to be related. And it's an interesting series produced by George R.R. Martin and Robert Redford, and it has kind of a Western feel. There's a great character drama here, and it has a lot of interesting elements to it, particularly involving the setting and the culture of the Native American people in the reservation is a big part of the story. And I really like that it's focused on telling a particular story of a group of people in a certain place and time, and it really focuses on immersing us in that world. So it's an interesting series, but if you like TV and movie reviews, definitely keep it locked on Shook Earth Media and hit me with the sub and the like, and I would love to hear your opinions on this series in the comment section down below. But let's just jump into the review. I was able to watch the first 2 episodes on AMC Plus, the streaming service. As per usual with some of the premier AMC shows, we get the episodes a week early. So I get the first 2 episodes, but if you're just watching it on cable, you only get episode 1. So just in general, this will be a spoiler-free review, so don't worry about hearing too many plot details. I won't go too deep into any particular storyline. I'm just going to be talking in general about it, but we do have the episode pulled up here on the screen, and we will be scrolling through clips from the episode. So if you don't want to see anything, you can maybe just listen, and if you don't want to listen, definitely check it out later and see if your opinion matches mine and all that. So I'm going to review the first 2 episodes from a spoiler-free point of view. So this episode begins with a heist, a bank heist where the money is being transported in an armored vehicle and it gets blown up. And then the robbers have a helicopter that flies off into Navajo territory. And that is the spark that starts the story. But it seems unrelated at first. But of course, we find out that there are links later on that make it more important to the story. So it's an interesting teaser. And then right away, we get introduced to Sheriff Leaphorn, who is our main protagonist, a very likable protagonist, but I like how they introduce him here. He's got a guy digging a hole, and he's got his hand on his pistol, right? And you're like, this looks pretty dark, like he's about to put this guy down, and looks for a second like he's a corrupt police officer. But what's going on here is that there was an artifact stolen from the reservation, and he's asking the guy to put it back in the ground as per the tradition of the culture. So he is ultimately like he's still he's a good guy here. He is threatening him. I like the element that he is a Native American and he is bringing himself into the system so that he can try to help his people. He has conflict with some of the citizens of the reservation. They view him as a traitor, as somebody who joined the system, but he really is trying to do right by his culture. So he's a likable protagonist. He's a smart guy. He's observant. He's one step ahead, but he doesn't say much, but he's not too grizzled. He's still like got that kindness and goodness to him. So I like the protagonist pretty much right away. So he's an interesting guy, and you just root for him right away. It's something about the way he carries himself and how, like I said, he's one step ahead. He's a smart guy, so I enjoyed this character. So here we get the second crime, or it's setting up for the second crime. We have the guy who witnessed the helicopter visiting somebody. He's been sick since he saw the helicopter. He's visiting a healer, and again dealing with a lot of the superstitious or supernatural beliefs of the culture, and how he wants to be healed for what he believes to be a sickness caused by the helicopter or him seeing it. So it's an interesting setup. And then there's a grisly murder, and of course the rest of the episode is about investigating the grisly murder. But there's a complication in that the FBI are getting involved too, because it's a federal crime, of course. So I'm just gonna say I like the way this show is shot. I like the way we introduce our characters here. There's a connection between the sheriff and the family that we don't know right away, so I'm not going to spoil what it is. But I like that we know that he has history with them without them having to come out and say it explicitly. And they hint at everything, and we get a little bit more into his character. Episode 2 is actually, I would say, less about the investigation and more about introducing Leaphorn as a character, and there's flashbacks in that episode. And I like to see a little bit of the past and how the past is coming back into the present day. So I do like the character drama aspect of the show as well. But I will say it almost felt like a little too soon, maybe, to get rid of or to clear up certain things in the flashbacks. But it seems essential to the story. So the only side note I have about the flashbacks is that they have a weird color effect on the flashbacks, and I understand having a visual look to set it apart from the rest of the show. But if it has this oversaturated look, it looks kind of fake. It has like a green tint in the beginning of the episode too, and it has like an oversaturated look for the other flashbacks. So I didn't like the look of the flashbacks. And also, just to throw in a little negative thing here, the CGI in the show, I'm not going to show it here because it's kind of a spoiler, but anytime you see like storm clouds in the show, it's kind of CGI and it's passable. So I'm not going to say it's bad. And then there's a more 3D model, big reveal, story twist at the end, kind of, that is done with CGI that it's not really convincing. It's passable. It's not bad, but I would say that it doesn't like make me think that it looks real. I'm not confusing it with a real camera shot. So that's just a subtle thing, but the filmmaking other than that is very strong. I mean, the cinematography is good, the acting is great, the directing, shot choice, everything works very well in the show's favor. So I like that. And here we got the new deputy. He is a newcomer in this episode, and we learn a little bit about his background. He didn't serve in Vietnam because he was in college, and he's returning back to the reservation after having that education. And we find out later that there's certain similarities between him and the sheriff. So I like the dichotomy of having this new character in here who doesn't quite fit in, but also does fit in because he's from here. So here we have the Sheriff Leaphorn's wife, and she is working at a clinic. She is a nurse at a clinic, and the doctor is dealing with a pregnant girl, and the doctor is encouraging the pregnant Native American woman to have her baby in this clinic. And the sheriff's wife is informing her that if she does that, if she has the baby at this clinic, that she will be the victim of an unwanted surgery where the doctor will make sure that while she is under anesthetic, that she cannot have a child in the future. And this is a real thing that happened in reservations, a really horrific thing that happened in the time period. So it is a thing from real life, and the historical, cultural aspect of the show, I think, is one of the more interesting things about it. And it's real history, so I really think that it's an important story. So I like that element, and also the element she's kind of the mirror image of her husband, who is, like I said, he's a part of the system. He is a police officer, law enforcement, but he is still trying to do right by his people. She's kind of doing the same thing. She's working at this clinic, but she's letting people know what is really going on here. So she's a part of the system, but she's also doing what she can to do the right thing. So I like that element of the story. And this character ends up coming back later in an important capacity, and I don't want to spoil too much, so I'm not going to talk more about it. We get this interesting priest character who at the end of episode 2, there's a little twist about him and it's interesting, but we don't know much about him other than we're getting weird vibes from him. But he's a Christian priest, but he is, of course, Native American. So it's an interesting element there. And here we got the FBI agents, and they were coming in to lead the investigation. But really, we find out that they are more interested in the bank robbery, and they think that all this stuff is connected. And of course, they are interested in that, and they are not particularly interested in solving the murder for like racism discrimination reasons. They are not overly concerned about it. And it's interesting to see the interaction between these two people. And he ends the scene by saying, "I'll pretend that the robbers were Navajo if you pretend that the victims were white." So he's kind of appealing to reversing the roles here. But I like the conflict between the local law enforcement and the FBI, and I feel like it's true to life as well. So I like that element of the story. It makes for an interesting conflict. So I like the conversations between Leaphorn and Che quite a lot. There's like differences between them and talking about the philosophy and dealing with the culture, and they have conversations in episode 2 about, do you believe in the superstitions that people have, or they carry medicine packets and stuff like that. That's represented in this show as well. So this is where I have some questions, and I can't really say whether or not if I think it's a good story decision yet, but there's hints of the supernatural in this, and this is like the only real criticism I have of this first episode here, other than the little nitpicks about CGI and all that, is we get a little hint of the supernatural in here, and one of the other deputies encounters somebody who is implied to kind of be like a witch woman, and I don't know that they did the greatest job at showing us that. They had some kind of visual effect over the screen, and I don't want to get into too much for spoiler reasons, but it didn't buy me into it. It made me feel like it was all in the person's head who observed the witch lady. So that's my impression I got on the first episode. I think they want us to buy into it a little bit more, so I would have liked to see something a little bit more concrete of like, oh, that really looks like a supernatural thing. And I honestly kind of would prefer this story without the supernatural elements because, I suppose I'm kind of a skeptic on these things in general. I understand why it has to be represented on the show. But in general, I would prefer it to stay grounded. But if we're going that supernatural route, I would have liked to see it a bit more concretely and delve a bit more into that and the witch lady and stuff. And I'm sure we'll get more into that. So I'm kind of curious about that. But as of right now, the storyline element doesn't really work for me because it feels like, I don't know if it's trying to be a fake out and like they want us to think that she's supernatural, but she's really not. Or if they really want us to buy in the supernatural thing. Maybe the ambiguity is the point. But I would have liked to see a bit more of like a conscious kind of choice one way or the other, but that's just a personal preference thing, and it'll come down to your imagination, I suppose, because I like supernatural stuff, but this show to me like works better as a grounded, realistic type of show. But I just take a look at the screen, and we get to see an authentic looking set. And I like this kind of stuff. This is why I like period pieces. I like stuff that delves into a particular culture and really represents that and has interesting backgrounds and costume design and all that is in line with representing that culture. So I like that kind of stuff, and it gives the show a unique character. So that's probably the most interesting thing about it. I will say in general with the crimes and the murders, I'm not that intrigued in that element per se. I'm more interested in the characters and the setting, and I like the experience of watching it, and there's some exciting parts, and I'm curious to see where it goes. But I will say that the murder part didn't really grab me as much as all the other elements. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. I think that's about as far as I can go without spoiling anything else. There was one twist at the end that I really enjoyed, but I'm not going to reveal it. I did predict it earlier in the episode, so it wasn't like the biggest aha moment ever, but it involves allegiances and people pretending to be somebody they aren't, and that is one of the more interesting elements. And of course, that's like a noir kind of staple, and we're almost, it's like noir western. So it's a cool show. I like it. I recommend it. And let me know if this video gets a lot of views. I might cover this more. Maybe I'll just wait until the season's over and do a season review. Let me know what you guys think if you want to see more coverage of the show, and I hope to see you in the next video. Thanks for watching, everybody. Peace out.